Welcome to the Online Success Journey Podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey Podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 166. Are you ready to join the clan? Today we have Stephan Spencer. He's an international recognized SEO expert, speaker, consultant, and best-selling author. Co-author of the Art of SEO, now in its third edition, author of Google Power Search, and co-author of Social eCommerce. He's the host of two popular podcast shows, The Optimized Geek and Marketing Speak. Hello, Stephan.
Hi, nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. I know the clan here is anxious to hear your story, so let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my clan a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own online business?
Sure. Well, before I started my business, I was a PhD student studying in biochemistry at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I met one of the guys from Netscape in the very early days while I was still a PhD student. Met Rob McCool at a conference in 1994. I hadn't even heard of Netscape yet. And I thought, wow, this internet thing is really quite exciting, and maybe I should quit my PhD and start an internet business. And I did. Within a few months, I had started a web agency, which then became an SEO agency, which I then eventually sold about 15 years later. But yeah, it all started because I went to a conference and met a guy named Rob McCool. So pretty cool. He's the inventor of Apache, which is the web server software that is running most websites on the internet.
What did your parents say? You just quit to do your PhD medicine into now
Online computing, marketing. What did your parents have any say in this?
Yeah, well, they were supportive, and within a few months, I had gotten my first big clients. So yeah, they figured I'd be doing just fine. So, but yeah, it was a big shift, and one where I had invested a lot of money in studying for a PhD. I had all these student loans, and that was kind of for nothing. It was a good life experience, but as far as helping me with my online business to have a master's in biochemistry and a bachelor's degree in molecular biology, not so much.
What a background. Okay, what is the most dangerous belief an online entrepreneur can have?
Well, that you can wear all the different hats and go it on your own. One of the first things I did when I started my business was to surround myself with people who were smarter than me in different areas. So, like, I decided at one point, a couple years into my business, 4 years into my business, that I wanted to move to New Zealand and just have an amazing kind of laptop lifestyle, be near the beach and everything. So I immediately, upon arriving to New Zealand, after I had gotten permanent residency, and which incidentally I applied for without ever having visited New Zealand. So
Wow.
It was a big leap of faith, but I just felt this intuitive drive to go live in New Zealand. So once I arrived there with my family, I immediately hired a general manager. That was one of my first hires within 2 months of arriving in New Zealand. So that, because I had a U.S.-based business still, and I wanted to maintain that U.S.-based business, but have a development team and a consulting team out of New Zealand to service those U.S. clients. So my general manager that I hired within 2 months helped me to hire like 8 other people in the next 6 months, and we were able to really grow from there. I'm not a great manager. I don't like doing performance reviews. I don't like hiring. I don't like firing. And I didn't have to do any of that. As soon as I had my general manager, the only person I had to do performance reviews of was him. And everybody else he took care of. So that was fabulous, and it was a good fit because I'm a creator. I'm an artist, I invent stuff. I'm not great at managing people. So identify what your strengths are. Take a test like StrengthsFinder or the Kolbe test, KOLBE. Figure out where you best fit into the organization as the leader, and then you surround yourself with other people who are really smart and skilled, capable in ways that you aren't.
Okay, I know you say you quit your PhD in medicine to go and do in the internet marketing because you took the leap of the faith and said this thing looks good, it will work. But why do you do what you do?
Well, I love inspiring others and making a difference for them, for their businesses, for their lives. And so by consulting and coaching and also teaching, like I have my books, I have online courses, I have coaching and consulting, private coaching, one-on-one, and I make a real difference for these people, and I like doing that. I think anything that we do that generates an income should be adding value into the world. And if you're not adding value for other people, you're kind of wasting everybody's time, your time and everybody that you're working with's time. So I'm just driven to make a difference, and I'm very, very good with computers, with algorithms, with marketing. So I just get in there and reverse engineer how things work, how Google works, and share that with people in my tribe and with my clients.
Let's put him aside because you've been in the business for a long time. How do you know you are successful?
Well, you're only as successful as you feel because a lot of people have what's known as imposter syndrome. They feel like they're faking it and that they're frauds, and eventually they're going to be found out. This is surprisingly not that unusual of a situation. Imposter syndrome. I've interviewed experts on this topic on my podcast, The Optimized Geek. It's really fascinating. And once I interviewed my first guest on that topic, I recognized that I had that. So if you feel at all like you're not measuring up, you're not as good as people might think you are, and that someday you might get found out, then I would suggest looking into imposter syndrome and how to address it. So another kind of related aspect to imposter syndrome is something called comparative success syndrome. And with that, it's a little different than feeling like you're a fraud. It's feeling like you don't measure up to the person you could have been if you had made different life choices. So, for example, by quitting my PhD, I abandoned a career in research studying biological viruses, and who knows what sort of disease I could have helped eradicate. I'll never know because I didn't pursue that path. But for quite a while, I felt some guilt about that, and I felt like I was I was being disrespectful to the creator, even for like giving me this beautiful brain that I could solve all these complex problems mankind is facing. And yet I decided to just go after money and success and so forth in an area completely different to the biological sciences. And yet after looking back and kind of assessing and knowing about comparative success syndrome and how that relates to imposter syndrome, I recognized that this was my path. I started when I was a little kid teaching myself how to program on computers. I had a Commodore 64. Before that, I had a VIC-20. I've been in computers for a very, very long time, and it's just kind of like going back to my roots. I abandoned that for a time once I was in high school, and I'd programmed my own bulletin board system. This was before websites, before really the internet, and I was just so enamored by it and sucked into it, and spending long nights programming, coding my own bulletin board system, BBS from scratch. And I realized, well, wait a second, I am kind of becoming a real nerd here and socially awkward. So I went cold turkey. I sold my computer and my software and everything, and I joined the track team and cross country team and cycling club. And for many years, I was kind of setting that whole interest and passion aside. Wasn't until I became a PhD student, and on the side, I was building a website for my department at the university, showing visualizations of biological viruses and that. And I thought, wow, this is something that really I have a lot of passion for. I should be doing more of this instead of the bench work, the wet bench work, working with viral assays and doing electrophoresis and that sort of stuff. The stuff I was also good at, but didn't have the same passion for.
Okay. Can anyone be an entrepreneur, or are some people more cut out for it than others?
This goes back to identifying whether you're one type of person or another. I think that not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur. They might be cut out to be self-employed, but an entrepreneur is a certain kind of person with a certain type of risk tolerance. I'm a risk taker. I'm willing to bet everything on my future and on my own skills and capabilities. Bet my house, my car, my savings and everything on that. Not everybody's willing to do that, and it's more than just risk tolerance. It really is a skill set too. So there, according to Tony Robbins, there are 3 types of people. And they need each other. So there's the manager-leader, which I'm not a great manager, as I had mentioned already. So the manager-leader type, there's the artist type, and that's what I am. And there's the entrepreneur type, and I am entrepreneurial, but I'm an artist. And this was a distinction that was very helpful for me to understand. I thought of myself as an entrepreneur for years and years and years, because I started businesses. I was able to successfully exit a business, but I always, from as early on as I could, involved other people who had expertise that I didn't. So I had a CEO for a time in my previous business in Netconcepts that allowed me to grow the business in ways that I couldn't on my own. So being entrepreneurial is one thing. You can kind of fake it till you make it. But being an entrepreneur from the inside out, it takes a certain type of person, and you might not be wired that way, and that's okay. You just need to team up with the other 2 types of people. So remember that the 3 types are the artist, the entrepreneur, and the manager/leader.
Okay. What have you learned from business as a whole?
What have I learned from business? That there's always a way to. There are multiple paths. There are multiple solutions to a problem. I've gained a lot of perseverance and persistence and dedication by just having a goal in mind and wanting to pursue that and believing in myself. So being able to get that positive feedback when, let's say I invent something like a software program, or I get new clients, or I have a new product launch that goes well, a new service offering that goes well. So I get that feedback. It's like positive reinforcement that I'm doing the right things. And I'm a lifelong learner as well. I love going to seminars. I love reading and upskilling. So business gives me that opportunity to continually learn and get paid for it, because I'm looking for ways to add value for my clients and for my community as a whole. So when I'm looking at a new opportunity, a new tool, a new technology, and I want to learn it, and I want to be able to add value for my tribe, then I will find ways to learn that and add value for others, and thus make some income as well. But it's never about just making money. It's always about adding value for others, and then the money comes. It's like a side effect.
Okay, in your businesses, have you ever had a coach or a mentor to help
Oh,
you
lots.
along?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I have 3 coaches currently. I typically have multiple mentors, multiple coaches. And I consider as a distinction between having a mentor and having a coach. The mentor is somebody who doesn't get paid every hour that they are working with you. They take you under their wing, and it's like you're an apprentice to them, and they're emotionally invested in your success. A coach doesn't have that same level of emotional investment. You're a client of theirs, and it's like the relationship will come to a natural conclusion. I mean, you might stay friends with the person, but they're not going to be paid forever. You're not going to sign up with and stay with the same coach for years on end, because you'll outgrow them as you grow and as your skill sets improve and deepen, and then you move into other areas. Yeah, you'll move on to different coaches. So I've had dozens of coaches over the years, and the 3 that I have right now are in 3 different subject areas that are quite important to me. One is in webinars, one is in sales, and one is in just general information marketing. So those are all areas that I want to build my business in, and I just find that having a coach keeps me more accountable, more on task, and more focused, and gives me distinctions that I wouldn't have known otherwise. And then I kind of bypass all of the trial by fire by learning from somebody who's taken that path before and knows the pitfalls. So the mentors are a lot harder to come by, because they can only take on one person, really, or maybe a couple, before they get maxed out. And a lot of people are just not interested in mentoring anybody because they just don't have the time. So once you find a mentor, that's like gold, and just treat them with so much respect and care and gratitude that they'll want to keep you under their wing for quite a while.
What is the most valuable thing your mentors and coaches has told you?
Yeah, well, it depends on which coach or mentor. One thing that was very valuable to me, I learned from Tony Robbins, who's I don't know whether to call him a mentor or a coach, because he helps so many people. I was in his platinum partnership for 3 years, which was an incredible experience. Very expensive, but well worth it. And through being a platinum partner, I gained some of my most important relationships, including my now wife. I met because I was a platinum partner. I met her at a Tony Robbins event, and some of my best friends are platinum partners. It's just been a really incredible experience. And one of the key things I've learned from Tony is about gaining leverage, not just leverage in the sense that you're gaining leverage over yourself and your kind of autopilot tendencies. We tend to drift a lot, and I'm using that word drift intentionally. Have you ever read the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill? It's a great book.
Wow.
Great book. It's the same author who wrote Think and Grow Rich. Okay. And Outwitting the Devil, in that book, there's a discussion there about what the drift is. And just very briefly, it's like when you are on autopilot, when you're just kind of just working, doing your thing, and in the comfort zone, in your comfort zone, you don't have stretch goals. You don't push yourself in a way that really makes you uncomfortable, and that's like death, death to your growth, to your business, to your career, to your relationships, when you're just drifting. So this is something that I want to avoid, and I want to keep pushing myself especially without having to have outside influences to do it. Sometimes it takes a major catastrophe, like somebody almost loses their business or their life or something, and then they make all these huge shifts, like, oh, okay, I'm finally going to quit smoking now, or I'm going to quit drinking, or I'm going to quit whatever the bad habit is, or I'm going to become much more intentional or much more reliable or whatever. But the problem is you're then reliant on the external environment to push you to do something instead of you being in the driver's seat and saying, I'm not happy with the standard I've set for myself. So by understanding the concept of leverage, and that something is very important to you only once you have figured out what the true cost of it is. Like, let's say it's smoking. I've never smoked, so I can't completely relate to this, but I think this will illustrate the point. So let's say that you've been smoking for years and years, and it's bad for you. It's eventually going to kill you, probably. And yet, yes, I'm hooked. I'm just hooked. I can't help it, and it's so good. And it's just a bad habit. I'll give it up someday, but it's never, you don't have leverage there because you haven't connected it to the true cost. But then let's say that you have a small child, let's say a daughter that is 3 years old, 4 years old, comes up to you one day, tugs on your pant leg and says, why are you smoking? I want you to be around when I get married. And it's like, whoa, that really hits home for you. You're like, wow, okay. And then you start crying and you start really getting it, what you are going to do to your family by not being around because you're making a choice every day to smoke. So then you give it up forever. Like, you're done. You've changed your identity. And that's another thing I learned from Tony, was about changing your identity. You can change behaviors, but if you're still see yourself as a smoker, or as somebody who's a workaholic or whatever it is, and you're just essentially taking a respite from that bad behavior, you still identify as the person who's like that. So I always hear people describe themselves as like a person who's in recovery if they stopped their drug addiction or their alcohol addiction, and that they're X number of years sober, which, I certainly am not saying this is a problem or whatever. I want to point out that associates the person who's saying that to their past identity of being an alcoholic or being drug addicted or a smoker or whatever the bad habit was. So once you change your identity, then it becomes like a permanent shift. And so I think that's really important. And use that leverage, whatever it is, the impact. The thing is that you're wanting to change on others or on yourself or on your future self. It's another thing too, is that I am wired in such a way that I want to help others and not so much about helping myself. So if it's my own thing, my own project, I'm less inclined to be passionate about it than if it's somebody else's, their business, their project, their happiness or whatever. And I'll shortchange myself. But that's just the way that I'm wired. So one shortcut that I found, one life hack, is to associate my future self to a separate individual. Like, future Stephan is a different person than me. So if I, let's say, eat a lot of sugar, which I was addicted to sugar for a long time. If I keep eating a lot of sugar, that harms me, but the big impact is going to be on future Stephan. So I wasn't thinking about future Stephan as I was addicted to sugar and eating lots of candy. But having that association with, I'm actually harming future Stephan, I don't want to do that to him. That gave me the leverage.
Okay, let's talk about your business, consulting services. Tell us more about it.
So primarily I'm focused on SEO. I do help my clients with other aspects of online marketing too. Conversion, in other words, the traffic that you have, making that convert better into customers or clients or into revenue. I also cover areas of email marketing and social media marketing and analytics and lots of different areas. But my claim to fame is SEO. That's what I'm most known for globally. So search engine optimization. I know all the ins and outs of how to get to the top of Google's organic results, and I help my clients to do that. I have a kind of a 3-pillar approach. I help them with 3 main areas to SEO, and those 3 pillars are content, architecture, and links. So content, that includes identifying the right keywords that get weaved into your content, as well as what content would be worthy of people sharing it, linking to it, blogging about it, all that, because you need to have worthy content, remarkable content, as Seth Godin refers to remarkable, like the purple cow, if you're familiar with that book by Seth Godin. Fantastic book, by the way. So if you think about like, how do I stand apart from all my competition, you have to create something remarkable, worth remarking about. So that all that stuff goes into the content pillar, as well as just all the different tags that in the HTML, like H1 headings and alt attributes on images and the title tag, all that sort of geeky HTML stuff. The architecture pillar includes even geekier stuff, like very technical aspects of search engine optimization. Things like XML sitemaps and robots.txt files and 301 redirects. Lots of stuff there, because you can end up with duplicate content that is going to be a problem for Google. You can end up with thin content just because of the way that you've structured your site, and have these pages that Google doesn't like, tag pages, for example, and things that are going to be a problem, and you didn't understand the implications when you had the site built. And a lot of times when you hire a web developer or designer to build you a site, they don't understand SEO very deeply, and the stuff they build ends up being not search engine friendly, not search engine optimized. That's bad enough, but not search engine friendly is essentially like repelling the search engines from your website. It's really bad. Think of it this way: if you have a house that you are in the midst of building, you bought some land and you're building a house. Well, you personally aren't building it, but you've hired a general contractor and an electrician and a plumber and carpenter and all that. So they're all working on building this house. So imagine that nobody mentions to the general contractor that the house needs to be wired with electrical. Like if there's no electrical wiring, but there are light switches and chandeliers and that's a big problem. Imagine now finding that out after the house is already finished. You have to tear out the drywall. You'll have to put drywall back in and then repaint and everything. What a mess. And how expensive is that going to be? That's essentially what you do when you hire a developer or a designer to build you a website and they are not experts at SEO. They've built the house for you, but there's no electrical wiring. So now you got to tear out the drywall and patch it all up. It's a expensive mess. Trying to add SEO after the fact to a website that was already finished by the web developer is a colossal waste of time and money. So always, always, always get an SEO involved before you rebuild your site and have them weigh in on the entire process. And then they'll weigh in on the architecture, on the content that's being built and revamped, as well as the final pillar, which is links. Links are the currency of SEO these days and have been for forever, since the beginning of SEO. Links mean that you are legitimate, that you're important, authoritative, trustworthy. If you don't have high value links pointing to your site, it's like nobody is voting for you. You would never win an election if nobody's voting for you. And in this case, the election you're trying to win is getting to the top of Google. So you need links in order to rank. And not just any links. And it's not about the quantity as much as it's about the quality. So you need authoritative, trusted sites that link to you in ways that look legitimate and not engineered by commercial kind of transactions and so forth, where you've begged, borrowed, or stolen or bribed these website owners to link to you. No, it needs to look like it has been earned by merit. I mean, it needs to be earned by merit, these links. And then you can rank really well. So those are the 3 pillars, and that's what I do for my clients, help them to excel in all 3 of those areas. If one of the pillars is weak, then it's like sitting on a 2-legged stool. You will fall over. All 3 pillars need to be strong.
What type of clientele do you take on?
So typically they're mid to large size companies for my consulting services. And then for my coaching, the private coaching, it's usually smaller businesses, maybe even entrepreneurs. So as long as they can afford, $5,000 a month to work with me on a coaching basis, and I believe that I can deliver a significant return on that investment, then it'd be a good fit. So smaller businesses, entrepreneurs, and then mid to large size businesses for the consulting services, where I'm doing things like coming up with a link building strategy or keyword strategy, doing an SEO audit on their websites, the bigger projects. And some of my clientele have included Volvo and Chanel and Zappos, Bed Bath & Beyond, Best Buy Canada, CNBC, Quicksilver. Yeah, so some big brands, but also smaller companies that you'll have never heard of.
How can we get in contact with you, and where do we find these services?
Yes, so my main website is stephanspencer.com. I have a ton of resources there, blueprints and white papers and checklists and worksheets and webinar replays, and videos and things. That's all at stephanspencer.com. And I also have my 2 podcasts, which you mentioned at the beginning, Marketing Speak and the Optimized Geek. I have separate websites for each of those. So marketingspeak.com, which is, it's like a university education in online marketing. It really is amazing. I've had some of the top experts in the world on marketing on my show. For example, Dan Kennedy and Jay Abraham, Seth Godin, and on the Optimized Geek. That is not an SEO podcast. It might sound like one because it's optimized, but the Optimized Geek is all about biohacking, life hacking, productivity, personal development, self-improvement. So things that will elevate you to another level in your relationships, in your career, in your mindset and health and finances, all that. So I've had some amazing guests on that show, like Dave Asprey, Byron Katie, Dr. Daniel Amen, and Michael Gerber. He wrote the E-Myth. Dave Asprey is like a biohacker extraordinary. He created Bulletproof Coffee and wrote the Bulletproof Diet and Headstrong. Some great books. So yeah, that's those are my passions. Those 2 podcasts. And if you're interested in working with me, you can also just email me directly. Just Stephan at stephanspencer.com.
So, clan, there will be more from Stephan in a moment. If you are listening on one of the many podcast platforms rather than my website and you are encouraged by Stephan's journey, go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for a bonus portion of the interview. The Online Success Journey is a wonderful membership community built for people searching for the path to success. We are one big clan and you can be part of this community for free. Once you have joined the clan, click on part 2 of Stephan's journey or over 100 other journeys that are available and learn how you can find the right path for your own online success journey. That's a wrap, clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and Stephanie.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to part 1 and want to be sure you know there is a second part to this and every journey podcast at onlinesuccessjourney.com, filled with even more success tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. There are dozens of episodes only available to the members of the Online Success Journey clan. Check out the website and click on Join the Clan for more information. Patience would like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and she has a free audio gift for you at her website. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for instant access to this gift. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and to listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review it at Stitcher and other sites by clicking the stars or completing the ratings form, by clicking thumbs up and leaving a comment on YouTube, or liking and sharing the podcast on social media. To review the podcast within iTunes, simply open iTunes to the podcast, click on Ratings and Reviews, then write a review. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.